Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve? It's been a few weeks, but it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. Hello FiST Chat fans, and yes, I've seen the film Gravity like everyone else.
Oh, cool. We'll get a quick thoughts on that in a moment. We'll just do our usual housekeeping. Don't forget our website, FiSTChat.com. You can get our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, SoundCloud, and our RSS feeds, and our videos on YouTube, Vimeo, and Digicosm TV. You can interact with us on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook, so I'd love to hear from you there. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, only 99 cents, hosted on Amazon, and helps to support this show. And we've got our supplementary content, the weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And if you think anyone's interested in our weekly discussions on film, science and technology, feel free to recommend them or point them to our website. Now, we're going to be recording 2 episodes today because our schedules have been sort of all over the place in the last couple of weeks. These 2 episodes will be released over the next fortnight, and then we're actually going to be having a 2-week break after that, and we should be back with a new episode first week of December with any luck. So, which is always good. Okay, before we get into our continuing discussion on post-PC devices, thanks to the mammoth month of releases we've had in October, what were your quick thoughts of Gravity? You've had a chance to see it now?
Well, it's such a good film, you don't even notice it's in 3D.
Yeah.
Well, the 3D is so good, you don't even notice the 3D. And, yeah, it was great. Look, yeah, it is complete fiction, but, hey, like you said, Ben, good film, enjoyable. You'd wish they make more of them.
Yeah, especially with the amount of effort in the technique that just to bring the whole scenario to life. It wasn't just, it didn't feel like just a couple of actors against a green screen, even though that's what it was. There was a bit more thought put into it.
It's amazing. No, it's a very, very good film.
Yeah, absolutely. Recommend everyone go see it while it's still out. All right, we're going to continue our post-PC discussion. We've had a couple of episodes recently covering this topic, but we kind of still have to continue talking about it because October, it seems, every year has become the Uber month of releases, with every tech giant releasing a new tablet or computer or smartphone or whatnot. We'll start with the Apple ones. Again, more evolutionary sort of stuff there. I had a chance to play with an iPad Air yesterday actually, and really nice device. But the thing is, it's quite light, so you could hold it in one hand while you're looking at whatever it is you're on there, whereas it's a little bit heavier with the older generations. But again, I think, isn't this what we were discussing before? Is it really worth $800? Just so that it feels a bit lighter in your hand or whatnot. I don't think perceptively you're going to notice that much difference in performance unless you're into hardcore gaming or something. I don't know. What do you think of it, Steve?
Look, after my rant on the post-PC user interface and your incredibly well-written blog last week, Ben, about the consumer cycle, I kind of don't have anything to say. If I needed a device like that, I'd probably go out now and I'd just have a look at what was on the market, and I'd probably want things that I could plug into it, whatever that device would be, and I probably want to think that it was going to last me a long time. And when I say a long time, 3 or 4 years.
Well, that's the difference between that and, say, a Mac or any sort of PC laptop, is that I wouldn't use an iPad as a sort of like my mobile computer because simply because you can't plug stuff into it. I mean, I know because we're not at that stage yet where you can truly go without plugging things in.
Well, that's right. Now, I know we're going to talk about them in a minute. I've been very interested in the Surface since they've come out, and I've played with them, but I haven't actually used one for any extended period of time. And I reckon, really when you look at the price points, if they were a bit more competitive, I'd probably be thinking about those. But also this week, of course, Dell released some quite cheap tablets as well, I think. So about half the price of the iPad and the Samsung range. So that's going to change the market once again.
Interesting sidebar about Dell. I believe Michael Dell's finalising the complete private buyback of Dell, so that who knows, they can continue their path to world domination without worrying about stockholder interests.
Yeah, I mean, could Dell be the next Apple? Probably not.
Well, let's jump to the. We can sort of go in a circle here. We'll talk about some of the Apple software. I think there's some interesting things about why, when they made them free, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Well, let's talk about the Surface devices. It sounds like they're sort of at least unifying the branding behind Surface 2 and Surface Pro 2 in terms of what software it's running and whatnot. A lot of improvements in terms of battery life and whatnot. It's an interesting take on the mobile device in that it's sort of that true hybrid kind of device, and I think it was a bit disingenuous of Tim Cook to kind of poke fun at that kind of idea in the keynote during the Apple keynote, because there probably is a place for this type of device.
Well, I would have thought that if somebody had developed something like the Surface first, it would have killed the tablet, to be honest. I mean, they tried it with Ultrabooks, which were next to useless. However, the Surface seems to be it seems to be a tablet laptop or a tablet PC. That's very useful. And I know, Ben, that both you and I, if it was flexible enough, would be using that.
Yeah.
I guess from Apple's range, that AirBook is probably really very similar to the Surface in terms of functionality and use. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a very interesting area there. I think at some stage, the tablet and the Surface type or that sort of laptop AirBook type of machine will become one. And that's probably 2 years away.
I think maybe the problem that Microsoft's facing is that they're pricing these devices similar to what the Apple devices are, and they're not going to compete if they do that. Because
they should take a leaf out of Dell's book and just go hard. If they went hard and low, I reckon they'd really get some market share, especially with Windows 8.
And for me personally, the one issue I do have with it is the actual dimensions of the screen that they've picked, the 16:9 aspect ratio. No laptop, no tablet, well, no good tablet anyway, has a 16:9 aspect ratio. It has more of a 4:3 or a 3:2. And the reason for that is that when you hold it in portrait mode, it still feels right. A 16:9 screen held in portrait mode is too skinny, and that's a bit of an issue. I think that's obviously where the iPad wins out, and they must have thought long and hard about that when they picked that size screen.
I guess though that's the trade-off between a tablet any direction and actually a laptop with a one-way screen.
But I think it would definitely have to be thought of as that, especially if, for example, you'd want to use a Surface as a reading device. It has to kind of cover that. Otherwise, it is just a laptop. But
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Maybe they're just trying to do too much with too little.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just quickly go through some of the others. Nokia had its event in Abu Dhabi, which was a bit odd. Apparently, it was the time zones were all out, and it kind of threw things out press-wise. But regardless of that, the Lumia tablets that they announced were quite interesting, I thought, and two things I would say, apart from they looked really nice, and I'm sure that they are really well-made devices, with Microsoft's upcoming purchase of Nokia, I'm just wondering if this is the only time we're going to be seeing these Nokia tablets. Because you can't imagine them competing against Surface, would you?
Well, you wouldn't. It's an interesting one, though. If you wanted to nurse Nokia back to health, this would be the way you'd do it. You'd just go for a lower end tablet that can compete with the Dells and the other ones that are coming on the market. So it's interesting. I'd have as many brands as I could if I was Microsoft or Nokia,
Yeah.
Basically, with the Windows 8 platform, because that's the only way really to protect Windows market share there now.
Well, I've been using a Nokia 520 as my secondary phone, and it's an extremely capable, low-cost phone. And if the experience is using it as anything like that, then it should be an awesome little tablet.
Yeah, what will the Nokia tablet retail at? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure, but if they can make it cheaper than some of these other devices, then they'll probably get a leg up somewhere, I would have thought.
Yeah, exactly.
And just finally, it's just worth noting too that Samsung edged Apple out in the JD Power Satisfaction Survey. Just thought we'd have to throw that in there because, Tim Cook sort of beats his chest at every keynote saying that, however many years in a row the iPhone or iPad or whatever wins this particular survey. It seems though in the tablet space, he won't be saying anything about it in the next keynote because Samsung's won on that one. Who knows what's going on there? There's been like this talk of, we have to question the way they go about, getting these ratings and whatnot. But, so what? I mean, they had to give it to someone else at some point because Apple wasn't always going to make the best thing out there despite what their marketing says.
Oh, yeah, and anyway, I don't really know what Samsung would have done to deserve it anyway, any more than Apple, but there you go.
No, I'd say it's probably making a very capable device at a lower price, I would have thought, because at the end of the day, price is important, as we've been discussing in the last few episodes.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, I don't know if there's too much else. We'll just quickly mentioned before about the free software that Apple made. Obviously, OS 10's now free. Going forward, the iLife suite's free, the iWork suite's free. But one thing to bear in mind is that they're really subsidizing the cost of the hardware by making those free. At the end of the day, Mac hardware is more expensive than everyone else's, and you're pretty much paying for that software when you buy the hardware. But it is kind of a nice gesture that they've now finally taken the cost away from those things as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken them so long to do that, but it's a good thing to do, I guess. So I would like to know, I wish I knew what the real reason or what the discussions they had internally were to trigger that, because that would be based on a lot of research. But I imagine, and this is pure speculation, it's probably got something to do with just maintaining their lock-in business model. And they probably have found now that forcing people to purchase that is the sort of thing that makes them drift.
Yep.
And, if you can give them the free software and then free apps, then they'll tend to stick around. So I imagine there's a lot in that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might move on to our news bites, draw a line under that for now until maybe next October when they release all the new tablets. All right, our film news bite from golftimes.com, the other side of filmmaking. What happens when cinema pros join the crowd of people trying to sell a movie? Not much, says Alec Baldwin, who found himself in Cannes with director James Toback hustling a movie idea with the rest of the hucksters. And in the end, went around and essentially was making a documentary about the shenanigans that go on at Cannes. I'll have to check this out because obviously we've been there and we've seen it. I did like this line that he says here. It's like dealing with a lover whom you keep coming back to no matter how many times you're abused and rejected. The joy of having it when it's there is so profound and memorable that no matter how many times it disappoints you, eventually you have to go back when you have an opportunity to. And that pretty much sums up filmmaking in general, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Very interesting, though. I'd like to know what he shot it on, because did he really just decide to start making a documentary while he was there?
Yeah.
Well, shot on his iPhone, is it? Okay, we'll see anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one worth checking out.
I bet it would be a good film, yeah, for sure.
All right, our science news bite from the ABC. Mount Etna erupts, sending lava and ash plumes into the Sicilian sky. Europe's most active volcano, Mount Etna, has erupted, spewing glowing lava into the air and sending a vast plume of smoke over the southern Italian island of Sicily. We're sort of mentioning this here because we mentioned Luca Parmitano recently in one of our episodes, and he was up there probably having a nicer time of it. Basically tweeting a series of photos from the International Space Station covering the event, which is quite amazing. So, I guess it just reminds us how active this planet is too.
Yeah, it's easy to forget, but those volcanoes are real, and we could have. I mean, it was only in the 1980s we had Mount St. Helens in the US blow its top for a number of weeks, and I guess you just never know. Forces of nature more powerful than us.
Exactly. And finally, our tech news bite. All companies are technology companies now, from the Sydney Morning Herald. From humble home services to rural concerns, digital technology is revolutionising the way even the smallest and most traditional businesses manage their operations. Although only a fraction of companies around the world would consider themselves to be in the technology business, increasingly the great majority of them rely on technology to stay in business. And this is a really fundamental shift in the way business is done, and the idea that you could have sort of the cash tin business on the side, just selling some basic goods and services. I'm sure there's still a couple of those around, but at the end of the day, you need to have a presence on the net. You need to be able to take advantage of the latest technologies. People need to be able to, access their funds online, et cetera, or even if you have a website selling goods, it's just the wave of the future.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was very interesting. We might talk about this at a later date, but I was at a talk this week by Chris Adams, who's in charge of Spondo, the online publishing or video publishing company that puts a paywall up in front of your content.
Yeah,
very interesting business model. Once again, everybody is a publisher, everyone's in the media business, and he's offering a chance to monetize that. So. Very interesting. We can talk about that another time, but it builds exactly on that, Ben, that, who isn't in the technology business anymore? Even if you're a plumber, you'll be found online somehow,
Yep. It's just the way.
Unless your friends call you up on the weekend because they got a leaky tap.
Yeah, exactly, which I'm sure still happens. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again for the chat.
No worries, Ben. See you soon, FiST Chat fans.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you for the next one.